Go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. I see a lot of familiar names on here and a few new ones, so it's great to have you all join. Every week, as you guys know, we carve out 30 minutes to connect, learn, share insights on what is working really, really well in schools across the state. Whether you're in your office or your classroom or in between meetings, we really appreciate you guys taking the time to join our webinar. So our goal is always simple on our Wednesdays. Here's something that sparks a new idea, walk away with one practical takeaway, and maybe make a meaningful connection with someone else who is in the chat room. So let's kick off our weekly webinar series. So last week we were joined by Ryan, who is here today, who was talking about how we simplify insights with dashboards and tips. And then next week we're going to continue our harmful language series with Dr. Barfield for her second session, which is all about building awareness and changing mindsets. So the link will be in the chat to register, and then also Kim will put the recording if you guys want to check out the first session that we had before next session. All right. And then today we're going to be talking about what's on everyone's minds right now, which is the state test results. You guys should all know Ryan, I believe, but if you don't, he is our amazing technical solutions specialist. Did I get that right, Ryan?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is correct.
Okay, cool. And he'll be talking about state trends in ELA and math. He'll take a look at the CASP, the CAST, and LPAC dashboard. And then if we have a little bit of time afterwards, he'll be looking at some rankings, and then he'll be seeing how your specific school or district compares statewide. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ryan to kick off our very fun and engaging session.
All right. Thank you, Shay.
You're welcome.
It's good to be back. I can't believe they let me back 2 times in a row. Parsec's fallen on hard times, guys. I don't know what to tell you. And they let me out into the open. So yes, today we're going to talk about the results. What do they look like? Where have they landed? But I decided to do a little gamification. Shay, I don't have control. Oh, I do have control. I finally have control. Thank you. So we're going to talk about trends in ELA and math in particular, because I don't have time to go over everything. We can do a part 2 and look at LPAC and CAST more closely. We'll look at them today briefly. We're going to overview the dashboards that we have. So if you're a partner with us, where do you find this? How do you use it? How does it work? And then if we have time and I'm willing to stay on later, I've got no problem doing that. I'm more than happy to go through and look at ranking. So where does your school system rank among similar districts or charters and by grade levels you serve, et cetera? All right. So let's talk about statewide trends. This isn't gamified. I just want to show you what does the trend look like in ELA and math over the last, with the 2025 results in, and so where are we headed? And the news actually looks good. I'm going to minimize all your faces. So as you can see, before the pandemic, so 2019, it's kind of the year that we look back to still, not to say that the pandemic is still the thing that's shaping outcomes, but to look at where we were before. Basically, there was this sort of earthquake in education that happened where students weren't in school. We weren't sure what's going to happen. We lost instruction, particularly those students that were in kindergarten, first, second grade, or even earlier than that in those periods were affected in major ways. And there was learning loss. It's why the federal government threw a bunch of money into learning loss recovery. But as you can see, there has been movement forward. 2021-22 set a new baseline. That's the first test post-pandemic, and it's the modified assessment. 2022-23, there was a little bit, like a 0.5% step back, but then we stepped back forward. And in 2025, I'm pleased to say that the state has moved upward by almost 2 percentage points overall, showing that almost 50% of students are grade level proficient in ELA across the state. So still a lot of work. 50% isn't where we would like to stay. 48% is not where we'd like to stay, but we are moving upward. And so if we continue the same pace, we will be close to at pre-pandemic levels next year if the pace is continued in ELA. All right, next slide here. Here's the math trend. So Math took a bigger hit over the course of the pandemic. There's something about math that just does not did not benefit from the shifts that happened, the move to distance learning for a lot of people who weren't used to it, and the learning to do math in a different way. And so 6% dip or so, but we've continued to make consistent progress. I know a lot of you in your school systems have had concerted efforts towards mathematics, and that has been true across the state. And it's showing results. There has been from 21-22, we set that new baseline, consistent movement forward in proficiency, and we hit 37.3% proficiency in math across the state in 24-25. And so if we continue at that pace with about almost a 2-point gain, we'll be close again next year if we continue that trend to our pre-pandemic levels, which is a good sign for learning recovery when you average across the state. Now, there are pockets where things may not look like this. That's the point of averages. But overall, things are moving forward. Can you go to the next slide? Or actually, I am in control. I keep forgetting. So now we're going to talk about some other trends, some grade level outliers, and we're going to go into student groups and some race ethnicity data, and we're just going to talk about what's where very quickly so that you guys begin to get your foundations to where things are at. It's going to be gamified. We're going to do polls, and we're going to have you guys vote based on the question. And so our first question: which grade level is furthest below its pre-pandemic level in ELA? So if we look at 2018-19, which grade level is still furthest from recovering to the 2019 level? Go ahead and vote. Got a lot of votes. All right, we have 14 votes. Yep. All right, there's our options. I did it intentionally confusing. First was 11th, second was third was 8th, fourth was 7th. So I've got 73% of participants. I think the other 5 are probably note takers. So Shay, if you want to go ahead and end that poll. And this is what the data looks like for that grade. So that grade level was at 48.5% proficiency in ELA before the pandemic. It's at 44.2% proficiency now. And those of you who guessed third grade, I don't know why it's not letting me proceed. Oopsies. Third grade, you are correct. So third grade still is the furthest away from its pre-pandemic levels of all of the grade levels in ELA. So if this is surprising to you, good. It's good to be aware of it. Some of you, it makes sense. You're seeing the students who were kind of really young and formed in those pandemic years, those 2 to 3 pandemic years. So third grade furthest from pre-pandemic level. I used PPL because I didn't have enough room. And the next question is going to be like it. I can go to the next slide. There we go. Which grade level is closest to its pre-pandemic levels in ELA? This is question 2. So which grade level is closest to its pre-pandemic levels in ELA? They've gotten the closest to where they were before. Recovery has been the strongest. What do you guys think? And remember, this is across the whole state. All right. Okay. So I've got 14 out of 20. I'll wait a few more seconds there. If you want to vote, looks like we have all of our votes in. Awesome. And so Shay, if you want to go ahead and end that poll for 15 of 20. And if you look, so this is the data for the grade level that is closest to where they were pre-pandemic. And if you answered 11th grade, you were correct. So 11th grade took the smallest hit for post-pandemic. And then they're also closest to their pre-pandemic, only 0.3% off in proficiency from where they were previously. So about 5 of you got that one correct. And there's no prize at the end of this. I wish there was, but just the admiration of your peers. I hope that's enough for you guys. And next, Star Cortez, she's here for the admiration of her peers. So the next question is which grade level? So we'll do the same thing for math. So which grade level is furthest below its pre-pandemic level in math? So which grade level has had the hardest time in recovery? Is it 11th grade? Is it 3rd grade? Is it 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade, 4th grade, or 5th? We'll give it about 25 more seconds to answer. Dennis, I'm interested to hear just anecdotally, what grade do you think it is?
I said 11.
Okay. And you're the math whiz.
Let's see.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to call that good there. And we'll go ahead and end the poll. And if you answered 11th grade, or sorry, 3rd grade again. So Dennis, not 11th grade, believe it or not, 3rd grade is still the furthest from their pre-pandemic levels at this time. And so if you see ELA and math, both 3rd grade, furthest from proficiency, we're seeing sort of this after effect of those really formative years in distance learning or just in a completely different environment as a whole. It's showing up in the results in 3rd grade. And I'm sure there's other things going on, switches to some of the early literacy assessments and getting used to those, all sorts of things. They're about 4% off from where they were pre-pandemic as far as proficiency is concerned. And we'll go to the next question. With good progress forward, just a ways to go. And so which grade level is closest to its pre-pandemic level in math? So which has made the most recovery? We'll go ahead and ask that question here and go ahead and answer. Is it 11th grade? Is it 3rd grade? Oopsies. Is it 8th? Is it 7th? Is it 6th? Is it 5th? We'll give it about 25 more seconds again. Got a lot of good answers. We got about 12 of 21 answers. So we'll wait till we see about 15 of those come in. 8 more seconds. All right, let's go ahead and end that poll. And if you answered 11th grade, you are correct. They're 1.7% off of their pre-pandemic level, and they saw almost 3 points of growth from the previous 11th grade cohort in 2025. So big moves for 11th grade. They saw some of the smallest hits, some of the biggest gains. So the work being done at the high school level over the last 3 years, from those 9th graders, 8th graders, 7th graders coming out of the pandemic to this 11th grade assessment cycle, doing very, very well.
Hey, Ryan, you had a question from Rebecca.
Yeah, Rebecca, what's the question? Someone want to read that for me? I can't see it.
Yeah, so she said 3rd graders weren't in school during the pandemic. Could this be because this is their first year taking CASP? And I believe this is from the previous question.
Yeah. So I don't have definitive information on that. And we're still finding out. We're going to see research over the next couple of years in particular start to come to light, probably the next 2 to 5 years, really talking about what the causal relationship is between outcomes for third graders and some of the social and educational differences during the pandemic. It is their first year taking the assessment. So there's something to be said about that. And it's always the first year they take an assessment, third grade. So there might be just a slower recovery there, whereas an 11th grader's taking it, 5 times or whatever it is at that point, 6 times, 7 times. I don't know the exact math, but regardless, there could be some familiarity components that cause the proficiency over time for that grade level to just recover slower. I don't know. It'd be worth investigating. And we'll see research come out in the next 2 to 5 years. All right. So next question, we're going to talk about student groups. And we'll just question 5 here. Which student group had the largest increase in proficiency from the previous year in ELA? So which student group, and we've got these at the socioeconomically disadvantaged students, the students with disabilities, English learners, RFEPs, homeless students, or foster youth. So who saw the largest gains in proficiency in ELA? I'm seeing our SED students, English learners. I'll give you a little hint. I thought it was going to be RFEPs, and I was wrong. All right, we've given it about a minute. So even though we've got only 47% of answers in, Shay, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll, or we can close that poll. And I will tell you that we go to the next slide here. Oops, can you go back real quick? So if you look here, this is the gains. So I want to make it clear that every student group gained year-over-year proficiency in ELA, each of these student groups. The student group that grew the most was foster youth. They had a 2.6% increase in proficiency year over year across the state. And in second place was RFEPs. In third place, your socioeconomically disadvantaged students. So you can see what their data looks like here. And they're ahead of where they were pre-pandemic as a group. So good progress happening for foster youth. And we'll go to the next slide, the next question. Same question, but for math. Who had the biggest proficiency gains in math year over year? And you want to open that poll for us real quick? All right, here we go. So which student group do you guys think had the largest increase in math? So interesting trends here. So everyone's now gone to foster. Foster's now a viable option. I don't think anyone voted for it in the last one. And you know what, Shay, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go ahead and close that poll. Great. And the answer here, guys, was also foster youth. They saw an increase of 2% proficiency year over year. RFEPs were in second place. Homeless were in third place in their proficiency gains. And so, but here I want to note positive proficiency gains for every student group on average across the state. And we'll go to the next slide. And you can see, I mean, this is consistent upward trends from 2021, 22, all the way through 2024, 25. Next slide. So we're just going to do one question here because the answer is the same for both, like the last one. But which race ethnicity group had the largest gains over the previous year in ELA and math? So go ahead and open that poll, but it's the same answer for both. Who was it in ELA and math? Because I want to jump over to the dashboards. Was it your American Indian students, Asian population, Black or African American students, Filipino students, Hispanic or Latino, Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, two or more races, or white students? All right. All right, we'll close it in 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's go ahead and close this one. And it is one that not a single person voted for. And we'll click next. So if you look here, the Black or African American, that's the way they're listed as a student group in the files, saw a 2.5% increase in proficiency year over year in ELA, and they saw a similar increase, I think it was 2% in math. And so they had the largest growth in proficiency over every other race ethnicity group in the state of California. And I felt that that was something we would, regardless of student group, but this is good news that we're seeing some proficiency increase at an outpaced rate for our Black and African American students across the state of California. And our Hispanic and Latino population was in second place. So good news. And again, everybody saw positive gains. So there is recovery, learning recovery happening in the state. So Shay, if you'll exit out of the slide deck, I'm going to go into the dashboards real quick because I want to spend just a few minutes there and take a look because that's what the people came for. And I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to go here and share. All right, so if you're one of our partners and you log into the dashboards, this is what you'll see. You'll be familiar with that. You'll be defaulted to the CASP dashboard. I just want to note that with the release of the CASP files, we have also updated LPAC and CAST. We have updated LPAC and CAST as well. And so looking at this dashboard, it is meant to look at whatever educational agency that you have selected. So you want to make sure you've selected your educational agency first. If you are a charter school, even if you are a CMO, a charter maintenance organization, or if you happen to be one of those strange districts in the state of California that's also a charter school, you're going to be found under school. So you'll want to switch that to school, and then you can type in, let's say, Golden Valley Orchard, right? And you can see the results there for your school system. So that's the way that you would do that. And you can, so this is just overall view. Where a lot of people spend their time in our system is in the ranking tool. And I kind of want to give you an overview of how we would use this because we don't necessarily have the release of your demographic data to tie into this. So we take it straight from the SIRS files when it comes to your low income percentage, your English learner percentage, and your your enrollment size would be, I don't think that's going to be in here as much. So we'd have to look elsewhere for that. But what I would do if I were you, and let's say I'm looking for my district and I want to look, let's just say I'm ABC Unified because I'm at the top of the list here. What I would do is I would just isolate myself by hovering over the option and clicking only. And then I'll see here that I'm 60% low income according to what was in the SIRS files and 9.8% English learner. And I would write that down, 60 and 9.8, 60 and 9.8. And then I click reset filters because I want to start over. I'm still on districts. ABC Unified was a unified school district. So what I would actually like to do for similarity's sake is I'm going to go I want to look at unified school districts in the state of California. So I'm going to hover over that option and click only. And because they were 60% socioeconomically disadvantaged, I'm going to create a window of 50% by clicking in this little option here and typing that and clicking out to 70% socioeconomically disadvantaged. And they were about 9.8% English learners. So I'm going to do less than 15% English learners by typing 15 on the far right side there, clicking in. You can also drag these, like click and drag the dots, but I don't like to do that. And you can see that in ELA for school systems that fit these parameters, I haven't adjusted for student enrollment. ABC Unified is number 1 in English language arts, and they are number 2 in overall math results as well. So this is the way that you begin to find similar school systems and your position in relationship to them. Now, let's say that you happen to be Willits Unified, who's down here in 53rd position of these schools in ELA, and I want to do some improvement. I might select a similar school system, which we'd want to account for size in these cases, but I might select Ojai Unified. If I click on Ojai Unified, who's performing higher than I am, one, it isolates their results on the right-hand side, but it gives me a contact card over here on the left-hand side. And this contact card is the administrator's phone number. So I can reach out to Ojai Unified, and you can also go to their CDE profile and reach out to them. But the whole purpose of these dashboards is for improvement opportunities outside of our immediate area and context. And so I can do this for student groups if I want to see who's the highest performing for let's say students with disabilities. I can do that. Let me release Ojai Unified here by clicking on it again. And we'll see that for students with disabilities with those same parameters, it's actually Mendocino Unified and Big Pine Unified that are the highest performing. So seeing those shifts with student groups helps us identify that there's gaps in performance, but it could also represent a different population because IEPs, which is what the reported disability is stating, it can vary significantly. So you'll want to reach out to people, though, that are similar to you to view those outcomes. For the state test, the CASP, the ELA and math, it's going to be all in the metric seeded format. You can look at your trends over time, results by student groups. Claim area results, because they're not released on the student level, will be in here. So those of you looking for claim area results, they are right here. And you just have to select a school or a district specifically. It will not give you real results until you select an actual institution. All right. And there you go. So with LPAC and CAST, it operates a little bit differently. So we have the overall and the domain performance with the written and oral languages performance here. But if you want to look at the ranking tool, it's going to function the same as the last one did, except you can select the performance band by overall, right, and the different levels, or by the different domains and oral and writing performance. So if you're looking more specifically, you can do that here. So if I just want to look at the students who are well developed in writing, or who have the highest percentages who are well developed in writing, I can isolate those results by using the performance band filter. Otherwise, everything should look the same and it operates the same way. I can even go and look at different grade levels for whatever I've selected as my performance band. For CAST, for those of you who are really interested in science, because it's going to be on the California School Dashboard, I think it's getting a color for the first time this year, which is going to be exciting. You'll see that it looks very much like LPAC. And then if you go to the ranking tool, you can again select a performance band according to those domains and the performance within those domains. So if you're looking for someone who performed higher in a specific domain, you just select that domain, set your parameters of enrollment size, economically disadvantaged percentage, and English learner percentage. Rule of thumb, economically disadvantaged, I usually set 10% window on either side of where you're at. And then English learners, I usually work at under 10%, under 15%, under 20%, over 20%, and over 30%. Those are usually the windows I work with, just because there's a lot of variation in English learner percentage across the state, as there is an economically disadvantaged, but you'll find it easier if you use bigger windows on English Learner Percentage. All right. Any questions on this stuff? I know I just went over it fast, but if you're one of our partners, you can reach out to your EA or LIS and they can walk you through this a little bit deeper. If you're not one of our partners and you're interested in accessing these tools, you can reach out to us at hello@parseceducation.com. And all right, looks like Kim put some stuff in the chat. And then if you want to share the last bit of the presentation, Shay, that would be awesome. I'm going to stop sharing. I can't hear you, Shay. You're on mute.
I want to make sure that there aren't any questions before we let everyone go. If not, we'll wait around, but just want to send a reminder. Thank you, Ryan, for just sharing everything and walking through all the results and how our schools can use data. For next week, again, we'll have part 2 of our harmful language webinar series. Dr. Angie Barfield will be talking about building awareness and changing mindsets. If you guys, like I said, want to catch the first amazing session that she had, the link will be in the chat. But if not, we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Have a great rest of your day. And if anyone has any questions, we'll stick around for a little